People, deluded. Quick vid, because I actually got food in the oven, so I can't afford to burn that. Literally, I can't afford to burn that. Whole heap of money there. But anyways, do you know what? Yeah, obviously with Arteta coming to the club now and whatnot, and we're seeing, you know, all the things we wanted to see in terms of positive words. When I start saying tenacity, people playing with integrity in the shirt, people being galvanized, people being consistent, all of these things, you're getting happy. You probably got a smile on your face, and rightly so. People, you don't say I never smile. I'm not smiling right now, but I'm smiling, and I like to see that. I like to see all the players, young and old. But let's put the experienced players and the typical players that we would talk about to a side for a sec. I like it. I like what I'm seeing with that sort of stuff, in particular the young players. Now, it remains to be seen. I'm sure Joe Willock, Reece Nelson, they've got them two in particular. They've got dreams to make it coming from the academy together. They're close friends. I've got some comments on Joe. I like to see how them two. I like that them two have some good camaraderie on and off the field. You get the vibe that they might not be blood, but they're brothers. Martinelli and Saka, I've spoken about them many times. They've got on and off the field some good camaraderie. I think to confuse opponents, Saka, you need to, is it treat? Forgive me my Ghanaian people then, but Saka, you need to teach. Is Saka from Nigeria or Ghana? I think he's Nigerian. Apologies, I always getting mixed up, but I think Saka's Nigerian. Either way, he needs to teach Nigerian to Martinelli, and Martinelli needs to teach him Portuguese. Forgive me for getting the nationalities wrong. I mean, no offense by that, but to confuse opponents, because you hear that on a regular basis, and I think they could do that because they're good friends. But the main point I like to see is that these lot, they fight for each other, and obviously if they're gonna, it remains to be seen if they're gonna make it at Arsenal long term. Not just these lot, but the Nelsons as well. Throw Nelson with Joe and Eddie in particular, because they all go through. Put Saka and Martinelli really to the side, yeah, but include them vaguely and just focus on them three. What I like is them lot, they're good friends. They you know, I think Joe's from East and them two are from South, but either way, you know, they've all met each other and become friends, and they're all pushing on the first team, and everybody's journey's been different. Joe's been, you know, people have said Joe isn't going to make it at the team. He's taken a while to get there physically, but cream rises to the top, and he needs to work hard. But, you know, he's first team at the end of the day. He's an Arsenal first team footballer right now at this moment in time. Reece Nelson going through trials and tribulations. One labelled best talent since Jack Wilshere. All of these sort of things, and I believe he's a terrific player, and I stand by him. But the same people that big him up, the same ones to say overrated, this, that, and the third. You're allowed to think what you want to think, but you know, I'm talking about the people that can't have their opinion and consider everything. Eddie the same. Is he of the caliber to make it at Arsenal? Can he score goals? People, you know, people that were looking at a situation at Leeds wouldn't say this, but it's like, if he can't get in the Leeds side, how can he make it at Arsenal? Remember when Joe had a stinker at Newcastle away many years ago and then bust it years down the line? You see what I'm saying? They're going through these things together. They're all facing the same criticisms together, and sometimes your head is going to drop. And I like to see that they all seem to galvanise each other. Nah, Joe, don't believe them wastemen there. You're an Arsenal midfielder. Eddie, you can do this thing. Do you get it? Nelson, you can do this. Martinelli, Saka, whatever you want to say. Because they're all going to go through trials and tribulations. They're all going to go through tough periods. Certain players that I've listed are showing more consistency than others, but they're all still young, and I like to see that from them in particular. They're all fighting for each other, they're all riding for each other. Of course, you never know long term. It's naive to believe they're all gonna be here at Arsenal forever. They've come through the academy, they're gonna leave at 35. It's not how football you know, goes. But that's what I like to see. And obviously Maitland-Niles is a bit older than them, but you can throw Maitland and all of these other players in there. I like to see that, man. Obviously, I like to see when Arsenal Haaland players score, because it's a lovely feeling, man. I feel like a proud dad, like seeing our boys. And Guendouzi's a young man and he's different to this, but include him in terms of the Bournemouth game. Tears in my eyes seeing Joe, people that say he weren't there physically, weights in, man. Eddie scoring and his movement and all these things. I don't need to talk about Saka and Martinelli anymore. It's got to the point, like, it's like Torreira, it's boring now. Like, you know what they're on at this moment in time in this football thing. But I like that. And moving forward, obviously you need different options and nothing's set in stone. And there's, you know, you should always be open to improving and signing quality players. But Martinelli, Saka, Martinelli, left wing and striker. We need to think about what we do in the transfer market, what would affect that. Joe, it's down to him to decide if he wants to be a squad player, regular, first name on the team sheet sort of thing. But do you get it? We've got to start looking at him and his position and what it means in terms of ramifications of selling players and bringing people in. Eddie, you know, you can see the striker situation. They've all got opportunities. I don't believe everybody has to be a world beater to make it Arsenal. Everyone's got to be Jadon Sancho. Do you get it? Obviously, we want some man like that. But certain players can go on and be the Sakas and Martinelli. Certain man can be squad players. Certain man can be rotation options. Certain man can just plug gaps. Do you get it? Not everybody has to be a madness. Obviously, you can't have too much average Joes. I'm not saying Joe Willock is. It's a saying and it coincidentally ties with his name. But that's one pet peeve of mine. Obviously, if certain men are not good enough, they're not good enough. But that's one thing of mine in that people, especially with young players now and the hype and stuff, they think if a man's not the mad thing now, if it's not Callum, if it's not Sancho, if it's not the way Nelson's being spoke of, if it's not Foden, if I haven't said him already, then you can't be a decent player, because by that logic, again, McTominay isn't United, of course, so he might be a difference maker now, but he's not a difference maker of sorts, but he's a competent player for United. You get it? I believe Joe can develop into a decent player for us. I would like to see him being, you know, that energy in midfield and scoring goals. I think he could be a goal-scoring midfielder. But if he can't, I believe he could be a decent squad player, for example. Eddie, it's down to him. Can he be that Aubameyang and Lacazette score? If I'm not saying the player, I'm saying can you get 20 league goals minimum and be an Arsenal or top 6 striker? Alright, cool, you can't. But there might be a role for you in the team. Can you be Arsenal's Origi? Best example, do you get it? I'm sure Origi would love to play more, but he has to concede that certain men are better. Can he contribute in some way? Because can we be sitting here in 2 years and saying, alright, cool, Eddie can score 20 league goals in Prem, we've got a striker sorted. But if worse comes to worse, apologies for spitting there, can it be a thing where, alright, cool, we've got this striker who scores 20 league goals. When he's not at it or he needs rotation, Eddie's there with his double figures or whatever he gets. You get it? Let's just say he gets Lacazette numbers, for example, because whatever people say about Lacazette and whatever, that'll be a decent number in us. I'm not saying we don't want it to be better, but you get the point. Do you get it? Not everybody has to be the madman or the madness or do you get it? The superstar. Do you get it? It don't always crumble like that. And I think these players can go and be something. And obviously you've got Torreira in his mid-20s. You've got Guendouzi who's similar age to these men. We've got some decent components, and with Arteta I think he can mould them, but he does need to... What needs to happen for these young players is we need to plug the gaps. We need to surround them with competent experience. Right now everyone's playing mad, but we need a defender, potentially a midfielder as well, a couple of defenders, because you don't want it to be... Obviously, remember when Jack, Ox, Ramsey, whatever you say about these lot, but these lot were more or less growing up in what I describe as Arsenal turmoil. Like, it's not necessarily... Obviously, certain players and young players get their chance through carnage and whatnot, but it's not necessarily the best of environments. For me, I want it to be where, obviously, you want these lot to improve and, you know, with the games played, but you've got certain players that when times are going tough and these young players show their ages at times, which will happen if you played Martinelli, for example, 38 games, I'll back him to be a madness, but there'll be games he's not there. Pull them through it. Do you get it? When we're going through tough moments and people are looking left and right, I want to see the young players be able to look to figures and they're leading it. Because right now it's the young G's leading it, people, 9 times out of 10, prior to Arteta kind of, you know, 1 defeat in 8 games and all these things, even though it hasn't been perfect. But yeah, man, that's all I wanted to see. For me, it makes me proud, man. Not everybody can make it here, but first and foremost, Hayland and everyone connected is doing a terrific job. You know me, I like young players in a football sense. It sounds so wrong whenever I say that. And I love it, people, and I'm excited about these young players. I'm excited about Balogun in the youth. I'm excited about Miguel and Pantino and Ben Cottrell and Zayn Monluise, who's under 16. But if he develops, he might be a very decent defender for us. There's many players I could list. Flores bought from Ipswich. This is all under 18s. You've got people at 23s. Obviously, you know about Greenwood at the 18s primarily. You've obviously got the young sick G's on loan. You've got Tyrese out on loan. You've got a couple players there as well. You've got Emil. You're keen to see which players can make the grade. Obviously, it's naive to suggest every name I've mentioned and every name out on loan or connected with the club is going to make it. But if they can go on to be decent players, who knows? I think in particular in midfield, we've got a lot of decent options. I think Charlie Patino, very decent. I think Ben Cottrell, again, it's down to him, but I think he's someone I think's actually can have a career in the Premier League, people. And you lot know me, I don't sit here and gas players and say all these things. It's down to these players to work hard, but it makes me proud because our academy needs to be like Chelsea's in a sense that I think, I'm not saying we should be watching Chelsea, but I see that as a goldmine. First and foremost, obviously they need to bring players in. I'm sure Chelsea fans would agree, but look how many holes have been plugged. For years, Chelsea weren't utilising this, but you've now got Reece James, you've got Tomori, you've got Mount, you've got Tammy. Think about how much money these lot have saved, allowing them to splash money in other areas. Do you get it? Maybe go a bit dearer on the centre-half. Kepa looks like he's out of there, allegedly. So maybe go hard on the keeper. Or is there a keeper in the academy? And I always say this, people. Imagine if they just woke up one day and just said, forget it, we want to tear up this whole thing. How much would they sell Loftus-Cheek, Mount, Tammy's going for 50, 60 minimum on a bad day, and all these other young players, they're making cream, people. And that's what our academy needs to do. First and foremost, players to the first team. If not, players that can, you know, we can do things and recoup values and all of these sort of things. Because you look at Iwobi, we kind of robbed them for that fee of that transfer fee of 30 odd million. But you've got to look at it. Obviously, it's not exactly free, because if you was to count the amount of times he's travelled with Arsenal and how much money they put into developing him as a, you know, just from being at the club, going on tours and paying coaches that have been his youth coaches, it's not exactly free. But he's progressed through the academy. They've sold him for 35. Imagine we could get not just that, but you can get a 10 here, a 5 there, you know, a 5 million and a sell-on clause and things like that. Because I think Xavier Michi could be a decent player long term, but he went off to Hamburg. It don't look like we miss him right now, because Martinelli and Saka are locking that down. But do you get it? We've got a decent sell-on fee, and we didn't earn the most money, but you get it. He's come through the academy, and how much does it cost I don't know how much it actually costs to keep Arsenal's academy afloat a year. Maybe let's just say, for argument's sake, let's just say 2 million. Did Amici not go for 2.5 or something million in total? Do you get it? It pays for itself, and that could allow us to do other things. The academy will serve us well if we supplement that with great scouting and addressing areas and signing competent players. But I'm going to get out of here, people. On that note, it's been a pleasure sitting here and speaking with you lot, but my food is about to burn, so I got to go get it out of there. I can cook. I'm Caribbean. But on that note, people, DG.